Welcome to Theory of Pets. I'm a passionate pet owner with a drive to help others like me uncover the truth about the pet industry and what goes on behind the scenes. Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another episode of Theory of Pets. My name is Samantha, and today I'm speaking with a really inspiring man. His name is Mark Winik, and much like all of us, Mark had an experience that changed his perception of something, and that something was dogs. And I was really excited to talk to Mark. He is the author of a book called The Dog Healers, a novel. And I had the opportunity to read the book. It was such an inspiring, amazing story. I wanted to talk to him and see, his side of things and how he decided to write the novel. And of course, what else is going on with him at this time. Mark is actually talented in many areas. One of the things that he's working on right now is a documentary, and it's about dogs as healers as well, which is something that if you've ever known the love and affection of a dog or even cats, pets in general, that bond is something that really can get you through very difficult times. And whether that's just a hard time in your life, whether you're having physical or emotional, mental problems, pets are really such a huge benefit when you're not feeling well in one way or the other. And that's really basically the gist of the Dog Healer. And so now Mark's working on a documentary, and he's looking for people to take part in this, and he talks about that in the interview as well. But basically just looking for people that have been helped by a dog, that have had this really amazing story of a dog coming into their lives and helping them. So if you're interested in that, there's some information in there. He's also, he's got some really great cartoons, and if you're listening to this on YouTube or social media, you can click the link to our site that will take you to theoryofpets.com, and you will have the opportunity to check out some of the comics that he's done. And so he works with an illustrator, and he comes up with basically the ideas for these cartoons about dogs. And he actually, to thank me for the interview, he actually sent one to me about Doga and different positions like the upward and downward dog. And it's really funny. You can see more on his website again, like I said, and that's just click the link there below if you're listening to this on social media. So anyway, Mark is just a really, really inspiring, really fascinating man. I was glad to talk to him, and now you guys can go ahead and listen to that interview as well. If you want to just start out by, explaining a little bit about how you, I guess, came into this business. It's not really a business, but, this aspect of dogs and dog care.
Well, what I can say is I've been fortunate enough and blessed enough that my family raised me with dogs and primarily dogs throughout my whole childhood life. And our family was lucky enough to interact with dogs and just know what it's like to understand the warmth that they provide and the care and the love, and taught me, and I think my brothers and people in my family, that it's really a special bond that we share with these animals. And also as a kid, I would spend so much time going out into the woods, without my parents' sanction. I would just disappear in the woods we had at times 2 or 3 dogs, and spend a lot of time out in nature. So when we talk about how other animals heal, I think, we're all interconnected in some way, and it's really special. So
yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I was raised with dogs too, and I always think of that as a blessing, because it definitely teaches you that bond that's so different than anything else, really, any bond that you have with a human.
Right. And I think it's very interesting, actually, because I live in Brantford, but I grew up in New Haven. But it's very interesting. Just, it never really dawned on me, and I don't think people think about it very often, but many of the dogs today that are up for adoption are in urban environments. It's almost different in a way, because dogs that are in an urban environment, sometimes where people do have less economic means, their dogs are there more for protection, where when more you go out into suburbia or in the country, they're primarily more for companionship. So I think it's interesting to know how dogs can play a different role in different environments. So,
absolutely.
But I think intuitively, all dogs deeply care about humans and want to nurture something special about the relationship that we have together.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I think, we live in a very rural part of Maine, so we know a lot of working dogs, whether they're sled dogs or they work on farms, or, like you said, they're on large homes, with a lot of property, and they're more of a protector. But I think it always comes back to, that whether the dog's working or a companion, they want to make their people happy. And if that means that they need to protect or they need to do a certain job, they'll do that. And if that means that they just need to be a companion for whatever the case may be, they kind of always play that role that the person wants them to play.
Yep. I agree with that 100%.
So you've written this book called The Dog Healers, and I'm going to link to that if anybody that's listening wants to check that out. I will make sure that I link to that underneath our interview as well, so people can check that out. But I have been able to read the book, which is amazing, and huge compliments to you. I think this is a part of, I say, the pet industry, but it's not really the pet industry. But this is kind of an aspect of dogs and canine companionship that really isn't touched on a lot. I think that with the therapy dogs are becoming more commonplace, and you're seeing them more for emotional and mental issues now than you were in the past. So I think we're getting there. But your book really touches on something a little bit deeper, I think, than anything else does in the industry right now. So that's kind of what sparked my interest. And so can you tell us a little bit about the book and kind of, we don't want to obviously give it away, but sort of how you came about writing it, I guess.
Well, I want to thank you so much for just your compliments on the story itself, and coming from you, who I consider to be really a talented writer. It's a special compliment. So
thank you.
But the dog yes, you're welcome. The Dog Healers, I think we should start maybe with inspiration, which I touched on a little bit before. Just growing up with dogs and knowing what it's like to have a special bond with dogs. Partially that inspired me to write the book and write a story of this nature. I would also say, coming from family that in my time, which was, I'll date myself now, going back into the 60s, not many families were getting separated or divorced. Today it's much more commonplace, but really at the time I had a couple of animals, and they brought me and I think my brothers through a time that was very difficult for the family and me as an individual. And I learned in a teenage age that dogs really can play a special role in our lives and help heal our spirits in a way that modern medicine can't, and nobody else seems to be able to do it like a dog can. So that was partially my inspiration. But really what inspired me is on a trip to Buenos Aires, Argentina, where my wife and her family are from. I was really captivated by, there's a huge number of dog walkers and dog handlers in Buenos Aires that walk anywhere from like 3 to 5 to 10, even as many as 20 dogs at a time. And every morning, like hundreds of these dog walkers, it's like a special cottage industry, which you might experience in New York, but it's like no other place. It's a very dog-friendly city and culture. So I was really captivated by all these dog walkers. It's just an amazing sight to see the quantities of dog walkers and just how dogs will walk with one dog walker or handler through the neighborhoods, and everybody seems to be happy and getting along. So that was it. And so I did meet a young man down there that was known as, his name was Carlos DeMarco, and he was known as the dog healer. And I met with him, and I spent some time with him, and we walked throughout the city, and we had a conversation about his philosophy and his teaching. He worked with a therapy which was really about touch and tone, and he did express to me, which is in the book, that with each touch we heal each other, and how tones are very important, how dogs really respond to different tones and soft tones, but also firm tones. So I learned a lot about him and his philosophies in life with animals and especially with dogs. I was just touched by this, and it was almost life-changing experience, and I decided that I wanted to write a story about this, and I thought that it should be more than just his story, but I wanted to actually turn it, which I did. I turned it into a novel. So it's based on real experiences with this man Carlos, and also other experiences from other people that told me different stories about true things in their lives, and really about people's dreams. So this is what inspired me to write The Dog Healers.
No, I think that's perfect. Without talking about any of the specific stories or anything that are in the book, because obviously, we want people to pick it up and read it. And it's definitely, like I said, for anybody that, even if they're not a pet owner, but they just have had pets in the past or had experience with animals, you can't explain, like I said earlier, that bond that you have with an animal to somebody that's never known it. It's impossible to know unless you've lived it. And I think your book is the first thing that I've ever read that kind of puts that into words and shows how important those bonds are. It's not, we call them man's best friend, but it's not like your relationship with your human best friend. It's so much different than that, and your book really captures that. So I would recommend it really to anybody that has a love of animals and appreciates that, and certainly there are some eye-opening things in here, I think, for people that maybe either aren't aware of some of the different holistic health benefits out there, or maybe they are, but they haven't thought about animals in that way. So some great stuff in there for pretty much everybody. So obviously I would recommend reading it, and we want people to do so. So we're not going to give away every little story, but one of the amazing things that you have offered to our listeners and our readers on Top Dog Tips as well is that if there are people that have stories to share, you're hoping to hear those stories. So tell us a little bit about that, and are you planning to use future stories? Are you planning to write another book?
I think there's a couple of questions in there, and there's a couple of answers there. Yes, I'm planning on another book, and I've already started to begin on an outline. But I think more importantly, related to this project and the message, I actually have I started working on a documentary. We started filming a couple of weeks ago, and it's really based on the message of how dogs help heal our spirits, and just how many amazing stories there are out there. So it's not just about my story and about the book and about the message, but what I want is stories which we have already gotten from other people that are just amazing stories on, how dogs have helped people through some of the most difficult times in their lives. I mean, they're just really amazing stories out there. And we want to document them. We want to film them. We want to have a collection of stories, just so people could really appreciate how many different elements of life that dogs can help with humans. So, and also how humans can help return that same something special attachment with dogs. Yeah, so it's really, the documentary is really something that I'm very excited about, because it's something I think my goal is to put on film and video and share other people's stories, and we've already captured some great stories, and I'm just very excited about it. And I think there's other people that are just as excited that want to share their stories. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for it. And I don't have a personal story to share, but, I think everybody that has had that bond with the dog and can relate to that, would be interested in, this book and a documentary that kind of is along the same line. So I'm excited for it too. But if anybody does have a story about the impact of, a dog as a healer in their life, how can they reach out to you to be part of the documentary if they're interested in that?
They can actually email me at mark@thedoghealers.com, and it's pretty much that simple. They can send me a video, or they can just send me a very brief synopsis saying that they have an amazing story that they'd like to share, and they can just send me an email, and we're going to be, if not me, but I have an assistant that will respond to everyone. So, and I think this is not just going to be, this is going to be a long-term project. So it's not just about making a short documentary. So I believe that it's going to go way beyond just 20-minute or 30-minute documentary. I have plans to really do something special with this. So, and I think people are excited about it. That anybody that I talk to that has already shared amazing stories, they just said this is like really a wonderful way of helping people understand how dogs can play like a really special role in their lives. And the spectrum is very vast. It may go from just sheer companionship. It may be, kids that have had a difficult time with a divorce or emotionally disturbed. It may be seniors that are just so happy they're in an adult home where, they're just so happy to just have a dog come and touch their lives, and they just want to touch them and just puts a smile on both their faces. It's like the dog knows its role when he goes into a place like hospice, or we're even working with people that do volunteer work at Yale, New Haven Hospital, say for example the pediatrics department, and it's just so special. I mean, to lighten up a kid's day and bring some joy into a kid's life that may be suffering or ailing from something, that to bring in an animal that volunteers with their human volunteer is just something that you can't put words to it. It just brings a smile to a child's face, and I think that's great. So
yeah, absolutely.
So things of that nature is what we're really trying to capture, and just there's an unlimited amount of like wonderful stories like this that we just want to capture and share with as many people as possible.
Absolutely. It is an exciting project. I think, like you said, it may be a little bit more long-term project, just because I think you're going to get a great response, and, you've already talked to so many people, and there's so many more out there. I think, one of the biggest things with physical ailments, and whether you're young or old, sometimes between hospital stays and treatments and all the doctor's visits and the the medical jargon that you're trying to understand and the research that everybody's doing, it becomes really overwhelming, and that can be frustrating. It can be depressing. It can be it can really bring
overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can bring your emotional state down, and that's when your physical body is trying to fight something and you're just not, your heart's not in it, that makes it very difficult. And I think that's where, a companion comes in, as a dog. It's that little break that you need from all the medical jargon and all of the doctor's appointments and things like that. And it just adds that little spark of light to your day. And
Yep.
It's something like you said. I mean, you just can't put it into words, but your book does a great job. I think the documentary will be even more powerful in that aspect because you're going to be hearing those firsthand accounts from the real people that have lived that story and are telling you about it. And
Right.
I'm assuming you probably
Yeah.
are going to feature some of the dogs if they're still with their owner, you know. So I think the documentary will kind of just add that extra level and be a lot more powerful. So I'm excited for you. I think that's really going to be
Yeah.
a great piece.
Yeah. No, thank you. No, absolutely. I mean, we've already captured some footage with dogs and I'll give you a couple of examples of a couple of great organizations that are nonprofits that have really some great programs for volunteers where humans and their dogs get specifically trained to go in and volunteer in a lot of these different environments to help people in all aspects of life. One is called Pet Partners, which is located its main headquarters is in Oregon, and they have affiliates that do training throughout the country. And it's just really a wonderful organization. Another one, for example, that's in the East Coast is Angels on a Leash. And I think that says it all.
What a
Angels
great
on
name.
Leash.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just another very special, very wonderful organization that's nonprofit and works specifically with training humans and their dogs to go into different environments and help people. It's that simple. It's about helping people, but at the same time, it's like this is like, we have this word called second nature, but it's really, I like to say it's almost like first nature for a dog to like want to bring joy, want to help, and want to please a human being, whether it be somebody close to them. But what's really so special is how they can do this with a stranger. They meet a stranger and just can immediately like provide something special to them. I mean, it's just incredible that an animal can do this, and humans don't do it so easily.
Absolutely, and it is. I mean, that's perfectly
it's
said.
Not first or second nature.
It's not something that humans do for other humans. When we meet a stranger, whether they're sick or healthy, you don't just run over to them all excited and try to brighten their day. It's just not what we do. But it is a dog's.
We may even shy away from that.
Absolutely.
Unless we're in the profession. So
sure.
But go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you. So you were making a very strong point.
I mean, that was just perfectly said. It's not something that we do, but like you said, the term second nature isn't really right for a dog either. It is their first nature. That's what they do, and it makes them as happy as it makes us. So it's a really special thing. Yep.
So that's what the Dog Healers is all about. The message in the documentary and this is I think it goes beyond the tone of rescue. I think rescuing animals is wonderful, and there's a big trend that's been here in this country for the last 5, if not 10 years. But I think the next real big trend, I hope, is how we really learn to work with dogs and how many people can just desire, because it's not just wonderful for the dog as a volunteer, but like humans, the people that I've met and spoke to and that we've interviewed that are actually work as volunteers just feel just as great and wonderful about volunteering and bringing joy to somebody's life, and it could be a stranger, but it's really about somebody that is in need of help. It's really what more of us feel better about, I think, at the end of the day. So about helping other people, and the dogs make it really easy for us. So
I mean, I think that
we actually learn from the dogs. So it's like, somebody asked me a question once. It's like, well, what can we learn from dogs? And this is one of the really wonderful things we can learn from a dog is how to care and love and provide that unconditional affection to to a human that is intuitive to them, and it's not always intuitive to us.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like we said, that humans, we don't naturally just go over to somebody, and it's not maybe that we don't want to. It's just that it's awkward, and we have those kind of feelings, and the dogs sort of help to bridge that gap. So, it's making
Right.
the dog happy, it's making the person who needs the dog happy, and it's making the person who is the handler of the dog happy as well. So I think that's an important thing for people to take away from this is, it's not necessarily that humans don't want to help each other, but it's just more difficult where the dogs come in and kind of help to bridge that gap a little bit. So I think that's important.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I will make sure that underneath our the link to the podcast and the interview will also be that email address, which is mark@thedoghealers.com. If anybody wants to send in a story and maybe be part of the documentary, if they have an amazing story to share.
Sure, absolutely. That would be great, yeah. They can also actually send us a video if they want with if they have an iPhone or an Apple phone. The new smartphones are capable of taking incredible video.
Yeah, if somebody just wants to send in a short clip, sure.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's all the questions that I have for you today, but is there anything that we didn't talk about that you'd like to discuss before we go?
We didn't talk about, it's very interesting because the other thing that I've also been working on for months now with like a wonderful illustrator is we have a series of cartoon collections with the same name, The Dog Healers. I don't know if you ever got the opportunity to look at it or that was even brought to your attention. But
I was just going to say, it's funny because your assistant sent me an email just before this interview, and there was a little cartoon on the bottom, and now I see how that fits in.
Yeah, so it's just the cartoon. I'm not an illustrator, but I've always loved cartoons. I found like an incredible illustrator, and what I do is I just put together the creative part where I come up with a scene of two dogs typically, and the captions. Yeah, we now have a collection of about 35 different cartoons, and we're actually starting to submit them to some, I would say, well-known publishers and we'll see. Hopefully they'll start publishing some of our cartoons because the response has been really wonderful. The other thing is we have over 30,000 followers on Facebook, so that's grown in a little over a year. We've grown to like over 30,000 followers on Facebook, which I think is pretty amazing, considering like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, I never knew anything about Facebook or even used it. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Amazing myself again.
Yeah, no, that's an important point to point out too, because I will link to your Facebook page as well, so people can see the content on there and the cartoons and things like that if they want to follow you guys. And are you putting the cartoons together for a book, or are you just thinking of publishing them, like in a weekly publication?
You made an interesting point. I'm not really sure. I'm doing it right now for me. It's been more just fun. I don't have any real firm plans about, am I going to publish a book out of this? Very possible. Or are we just going to submit this to publishers that are brand names that have been around for quite a while that do publish cartoons? So we'll see. It's like the Dog Healers. I consider more of an adventure story that takes you on a spiritual journey, and that's really. The same with the cartoons. This is just an adventure for me, and it's like if something happens, great. If it doesn't, it's like I've had a good time producing them, and hope the people that see it touches them, in a way that makes them smile, and that's good enough. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, I guess I didn't realize
yeah,
that you had so many cartoons done already, and you keep working on more. So I think it would make a great, like a
yeah,
little coffee table book or something. But if you just share them, like you said, I mean, you have 30,000 followers on Facebook, so if you just share them and people get enjoyment out of them, that's great too.
yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens. It's very interesting. Like some of the feedback I've gotten on the book has just been really wonderful from some people in the industry and just in the pet world and also in the media world. Let me just hear. Oh, I have one right here. I'm going to read this to you, but I thought this was This is from Steve Gruber. He's the communications director for Mayor's Alliance for New York City Animals. He wrote this. I'm going to read what he wrote. I was engaged from page one and loved the tremendous human-animal bond, intrigue, and wonderful storytelling. I await the movie. Yeah, so, I mean, we've gotten, like, great feedback like that from different people that are, maybe more well-known in either the media circles or the pet circles. But so the other thing that may happen is we're actually starting to reach out, talking with some agents about actually putting the dog healers together and package it as a film. So
Yeah.
which is also pretty exciting. Yeah,
You
I
have
don't know. I mean,
a lot of things in the works, it sounds like.
yeah. So, and there's some great characters in the book, both 2- and 4-legged characters. So, and it's it takes place in just an exotic place, and you just, I mean, as you're reading the book, it's very engaging, and you want to see what happens next, and it's so unpredictable about what's going to happen next. So it's not just, like I said, it's a really an adventure story, that takes you on a spiritual journey, and it's not just about healing, but that's the main underlying message. But what makes it an interesting book to read is just the great characters and this adventure that you also learn about the culture of Argentina too. So it's a different culture altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I think there's a character in there, whether 2- or 4-legged, that everybody can relate to. And going through the story, you are very engaged. It's an easy to read story. It's it's very well written in that way. The flow is very great. So if somebody just wanted to pick up a book, and do some light reading, I think it's a great option, like I said, for really anybody, whether you're a dog owner or just a dog lover, or somebody that's looking for a more spiritual read. It's got so many great aspects to it that I think it's just a great read.
So I'll just share a story with you. I went to the doctor's this morning just to have some just simple things like retested. And there's a nurse that works in the doctor's office, and she said, I've been reading this with the story to my 8-year-old daughter, and we're just about finished. She said, my daughter and I absolutely love the book, and she's decided she wants to become a veterinarian after reading this story, and she had me call Cornell, University of Cornell, the vet department, to set up an appointment for her.
Oh, wow.
And she's 8 years old. So I mean, that's really special when you can.
Oh,
you can
absolutely.
Touch. Yeah, because I think Isabella is a great role model for younger people to, pursue their dreams. And in this case, the dream is about becoming a dog healer. So, but just when you actually hear that from a parent, it's great. It's a great feeling for me, and I get a real kick out of it. So
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
just a great story. And now she wants to be interviewed for the documentary too.
Oh, cool. Hopefully you can work her in there somewhere.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's great. No, it's always nice to, I think that's one of the highest compliments that you can get when your work inspires somebody else. So that's wonderful.
Yeah. And with all the stuff going on, I mean, I can't even watch the news anymore. with all the stuff going on in the world. So, to get off the subject, it's like the world seems to be a crazy place right now, and just the news, it's just, I don't know, I get a lot more fulfillment just spending time with my family and my two wonderful dogs. We have a Wheaton Terrier and a Woodle, and I can live without the news. If I didn't watch it for like 2 months, I don't think it would make a difference in my life. So.
I agree with that too.
Yeah, so I think we touched on a lot of different areas.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you have some really exciting things coming up. So I am going to keep your contact as well. And maybe we can touch base in the future when you've got some more of this stuff going on. I'm excited for you for the documentary and, see where it goes with the cartoons. You've got a lot of things on your plate right now. It probably seems a little bit overwhelming, but it's exciting too.
No, actually, you know what? I don't never really feel overwhelmed about this. It's just, I just really enjoy doing what I'm doing. You know what they say? It's like somebody very smart said, well, if you love what you do, you don't really have a job, That's kind of how I feel. It's like this is a passion project for me, and I thrive on it. So, and I hope it makes a difference in people's lives. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it will. Like I said, I mean, the book's a great read, and I think the documentary will be even more powerful to people. So I'm excited for that for you. And again, thank you so much for being on the podcast and for talking to us. I think this is a little niche in the dog industry that hasn't really been explored, and I hope, like you said, that we're going to see a trend in the near future where dog healers becomes more of a mainstream thing. So I hope for that. All right, guys, I hope you are just as inspired by Mark Winik as I am. If you are interested in the power of healing with pets, with the bond with pets, pick up the Dog Healers. You can find the link for that on our website, theoryofpets.com. And like I said on there, I'm going to put the email address where you can contact him if you're interested in the documentary. There'll be a link to the Facebook page, and all that great stuff that we talked about will be on there. So jump on theoryofpets.com. You can check out all my old podcasts on there as well from previous weeks. And of course, you can leave any comments, questions, suggestions, any ideas that you have for future podcasts, things you want to see or hear on here, things that questions maybe that you have about anything in the pet industry that you'd like me to answer. I will do my best. So you can email those to us. If you want, you can actually record your question, and I might use that on a future podcast if you are brave enough to do that. So thanks a lot for listening, guys. I hope you're as inspired as I am, and you have a little more insight into the power of dogs and how they can help heal humans. And look into the book if you're interested in it, if you want some more information, and keep a watch for the documentary. I'll definitely let you guys know when I know more about that.